I'm Carol Paquette. I'm the convener of the Virginia Villages Collective. I've been working with Mary Jane Atwater. Maybe Mary Jane, maybe you can, well, everybody's got their name if everybody can see you. And Anita Light. We're sort of the three people that have been doing most of the work on this project. Leila Riazi is the president of the board of Washington Area Villages Exchange. And Kim is our wonderful uh, go-to girl, woman for everything. And she is running the presentation today. So I'm just going to launch into the presentation. So we want to have as much time to address your questions as possible. So we're just going to start going. If we can have the first slide, please. Okay, so we have some funding for this project that we are going to talk a little bit more about, and we'll just move on to the next slide. Just to explain a little bit about the Virginia Villages Collective, we are an informal group, a collaboration of the 18 villages in Virginia. We've been operating for several years, started with making comments on the state plan for aging services, and have expanded to doing more advocacy and promotion of the village movement in Virginia. Our purpose is really to help more older Virginians be able to safely age in place. And we're doing that by increasing awareness of the benefits of the village model to organizations and to the general public, trying to foster the growth of the villages that currently exist, promoting the development of new villages, and then we're building partnerships with the other organizations that are in the aging services space. And next slide, please. And I think this is where I turn it over to Mary Jane, who's going to tell you about the Virginia villages and about villages in general.
Okay, so hi everybody. So where are the Virginia villages? As Carol said, there are 18, and you can see there's the greatest number is in Northern Virginia, 3 in Eastern Virginia, and then Central, Western, and Southwest Virginia. But there are some noticeable gaps, particularly in Richmond, the Tidewater area, far southwest, Roanoke. Those are areas that this pilot project is going to focus on. So let's go to the next slide. Now I know that some of you are already familiar with villages, but we thought it would be helpful to have just a broad overview of what a village is and what it does and the benefits of villages. And when people talk about villages, often they think that they're brick and mortar structures, but as you probably know, they are virtual communities, basically, community-based grassroots membership organization. The principle of neighbor helping neighbor is what drives the village and its operations. Villages were formed about 25 years ago, or the movement started 25 years ago in the Boston area, and has expanded nationwide. There are about 300 villages nationwide right now, but they all operate on this principle of neighbor helping neighbor, and they provide transitional support as people age. We'll talk a bit about social isolation because that's such an integral part of this pilot program in a moment, but villages are uniquely positioned to reduce the risk of social isolation. And they're positioned to provide non-medical assistance to older adults. It's kind of like a little help in order to remain in one's home. Services like transportation to the doctor or to the grocery store, light home maintenance, screwing in light bulbs and changing batteries and smoke detectors, tech support, errands, friendly visitors, all of those are the kinds of services that villages provide. And volunteers are at the heart of villages. Villages couldn't operate without volunteers. They manage the operations, they serve on committees, they serve on boards, they plan and implement the programs, and they are the ones who deliver the services. So Kim, if we could go to the next one. Okay, so how are villages organized? I just want to briefly review the variety of business models. Some are loosely formed neighborhood networks, but most in Virginia are standalone nonprofits. Um, but then we have something called a hub and spoke village model, whereby there's one central village that provides the administrative and the business functions for a variety of spoke villages, usually in the same region. And then there are sponsored villages. And Anita, for example, her village is a sponsored village, sponsored by the city of Fairfax, or Fairfax City, I should say. Um, and so those, when we talk about sponsors, they can be local governments, they can be area agencies on aging, AAAs, they can be healthcare organizations, educational institutions, they can be faith-based. So right now we are completing a study of the sponsored villages nationwide, but this model has the potential to reduce the time to start a village, and so it's something that we're looking at for this pilot program. So most villages do charge a moderate fee. My own village in Central Virginia charges $400 a year for an individual, $500 for a household. And villages provide scholarships or reduced fees for lower income members. And the funding besides the membership fees is usually donations and grants. And as I mentioned, villages are run by volunteers, but a number of the villages in Virginia have a very small paid staff, maybe an executive director, a, a director or a manager of member services or manager of volunteers. And many members also serve as volunteers. Villages collaborate extensively with other organizations, community groups, service providers, and they are kind of the entry level on a continuum of care. And they help with the transitions, as I mentioned earlier. So they will help a member who needs a little more care get that resource. They don't just leave them hanging. So let's go to the next one, Kim. So in terms of social isolation, and this is a key point of this pilot program, we all know about the risks and the health risks of social isolation. And villages really showed their strength in reducing risks during COVID when they drove people to the doctor and for the vaccines. So villages reduce isolation by providing the peer-to-peer connections. You know, when somebody takes a volunteer takes a member to a doctor's appointment, that's an opportunity for a social connection that goes on. So almost everything that villages do has to do with social connections and reducing social isolation. And they offer specific programs to reduce social isolation, things like uh, meals out, going to the movies, dining. Um, what else? We've got health and wellness is big, walking clubs, games, bingo. So there are a wide variety of activities and programs that villages offer to reduce social isolation. Um, and assisting with practical supports for household tasks. We've already noted some of that. And supplying information and referrals for navigating aging challenges. So if a member needs an electrician, villages can provide references to those kinds of contractors or vendors to provide that support. Okay, so let's go to the next one, Kim. So we do an annual survey of Virginia villages. The Virginia Villages Collective, I should say, does an annual survey. And in 2024, we have data from 14 of the 18 villages. And you can see that they delivered about 50,000 service hours of unskilled assistance. And those volunteer hours are valued at about $1.6 million. The opportunities for for socialization and engagement, about 1,300 social events. And many villages provide those engagement and connection activities and make them available to the entire community. And so in total, our villages had reached about 16,000 or 17,000 participants last year. Villages certainly delay or reduce the need for professional assistance. And so our belief is that starting new villages in underserved areas, growing the capacity of existing villages, will enable more Virginians to take advantage of the benefits of these villages. And that's really what this pilot program is all about. So I'll turn it over to Carol at this point.
Carol, you're on mute.
Oh, Carol, can you come off mute?
That's good because I was revising what I was saying anyhow. The state budget this year for 2025, or I guess it's fiscal year 2026, has $400,000 for this pilot program. And as Mary Jane emphasized, we are specifically looking at social isolation as one of the very important aspects of what we want to measure in this project. So we have two basic approaches that we're taking. So we are building the capacity of existing villages, and we will have a grant program for villages. They need to tie their initiative that they're requesting funding for to social isolation. So we don't know what sorts of projects they're going to be proposing. Well, we have some idea because we did in our survey, we asked them, if you got some funding, what would you do with it? So we have some idea, but that was just speculation at that point. So we'll see what we get in the actual grant applications. And we also hope to start at least 5 new villages. And again, as Mary Jane said, we'll be focusing on the underserved areas, the 4 that she mentioned. But then we have also had some interest expressed in other areas. So if we have people elsewhere in the state that are interested, we will certainly work with them. We're not going to turn anybody away. But we are going to be focusing on those 4 areas. Next slide, Kim. So we're going to talk about some timelines here. And I would just like to note that these timelines are, for the most part, just estimates. Certainly as we get a couple more weeks into the future. The reason for that is it's a rather complicated process to get the funding from the state to Washington Area Villages Exchange. And I failed to mention this on the previous slide. As we said, the Virginia Villages Collective, we're just an informal collaboration. We have no formal business structure. So we are unable to accept funding from the state. And we just really didn't see the point in starting another small nonprofit in this space. The Washington Area Villages Exchange is the regional association for villages in Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, and the District of Columbia. And so we are working with WAVE as our fiscal sponsor. They will be accepting and administering the financial aspects of this program. Virginia Villages Collective will be mostly running the technical side and the business, or not the business side, but the operational side of the project. So this is our timeline for the evaluation task. We are the October 1 date and the October 22nd date. We will make awards by the 22nd. It's our objective to make the awards, make the selection as quickly as possible. But it'll be no later than the 22nd. So all the other dates then kind of flow out from that one. And again, they're just tentative at this point. And, we will obviously need to coordinate and adjust those dates with all the other people that need to be involved in these activities. But we just wanted to give you a picture of how we see this particular task rolling out. We did have one question that came in that I want to address right now. So in the RFP, we make the statement that the program ends at the end of the Virginia fiscal year, which would be the end of June in 2026. But as you see, we're expecting the report a couple of months after that. And we have a quarterly meeting with the State Agency on Aging, and we had one of those meetings this week just to verify our understanding that although the fiscal year ends on June 30th, we do not need to have all the project deliverables in hand at that point. So we're okay with this date that is, a couple months beyond the end of June. Next slide, please. And then the two elements of the program that you will be evaluating, excuse me, are the Village Grant Program. We are, these dates are a little more vague because we haven't quite firmed them up yet, but we do hope to have a similar conference to this the first week in October for the villages to talk about that grant program and to entertain their questions and discussion. And again, you can see how we are projecting that the timeline will run out for that part of the project. And if we can go to the next slide, Kim. Excuse me. Starting new villages. This is the least structured part of the program. We have been, we had the opportunity to announce this award at the May Governor's Conference on Aging. And we being Virginia Villages Collective, have been making presentations to a lot of groups around the state, really for the last 2 years. But we were able to say, we have the pilot project and to actively invite people who are interested and organizations who are interested in getting villages started to give us their names. So we have a list of, I think around 20 or so of mostly organizations, some individuals who have expressed an interest in starting villages. We have several of those who are really saying, when are we going to get started? And there are others that are a little less focused right now. So when we talk about qualifying planning groups, we have an arrangement with the Village Movement California, which has a very effective village incubator program. And we have made an arrangement with them to use their program for our startup villages. Now, you might be saying, well, they're in California and you're in Virginia. How's that going to work? I mean, we all know about Zoom, but I'm not talking about technically. It's, well, aren't things different in California than they are in Virginia? And the answer is, no, really not so much. In terms of the steps that you need to do to start a village. Villages are very grassroots organizations, and they're very closely tied to the geography and the communities where they're located. So from that perspective, villages in California may have a little different vibe than villages in Virginia. One would expect that. I mean, it's California. But the process is really identical in terms of what you need to do to get a village started. And, when you're starting a village, it is essentially you're starting a small business. So there's not a lot of mystery about what needs to happen. So that's why we can use a program that's been developed in another state for our villages. We are talking about having at least 5 villages as a cohort to move through the program. There are currently village startup groups in California that are moving through the program. They'll all be doing the same thing, but the Virginia villages will be working as a cohort, and the California villages are working as their own cohort. So there won't be any cross working as I understand it right now. The next slide, I guess. So we've been doing our homework, and things happen and you learn things. So since the RFP came out, we have been made aware that there are some evaluation tools, some evidence-based evaluation tools that are starting to be widely used uh, by community-based organizations and by AAAs. So we have these two evaluation tools that we're identifying here. We are recommending that one or both of these tools be used for the social isolation aspect, excuse me, along with whatever other tools and how this will fit into your methodology. So we're just throwing this out here to say this would be our preference, but then you all probably have your own approaches for how you would approach this problem. So we're not requiring that you use these, we're just strongly recommending. We also had a conversation, as it happens, the Virginia Department of Aging is a partner with the Administration of Community Living on their loneliness and isolation for their Commit to Connect program. So we asked the state this week, would it be advisable for us to get involved with the community of practice associated with that initiative? And again, they're not requiring us to do that, but they thought that might be a good practice. So we will probably get involved with that national community of practice in this project. And we just wanted to make you aware of that as our thinking is evolving on this. And then one more slide, please. Mary Jane, did you want to say something? No, okay. Another development is that WAVE has been working with a company called Explore Digits for some time, working on villages and data collection issues. And they are currently, excuse me, developing a secure data platform. And we are going to be requiring the use of this data platform in your work. This is a very capable platform, and since I can't even manage my Zoom conferences, we're going to turn it over to Chris from Explore Digits, who's going to tell you a little bit more about this platform, how it works, and to give you a little demonstration. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. A little backstory is that my father lived alone at the end down in Florida, and I have 3 siblings, and we'd have to take turns flying down to help him and do all of the things you just described that your villages do for people. So special kudos to you, because I know that is a really important need in our country, and I'm delighted to be part of the opportunity to take this program forward. So with that, what I'd like to do is share my screen. Can you all see my screen with the Smart Survey Assist
Yep.
banner here? Yes, perfect. Excellent. Thank you, Carol. And as you noted, I'm the product owner of our Smart Survey Assist application in Explore Digits. And Explore Digits is really an analytics company. But for doing analytics effectively, you need to have good quality data. So one of the things you'll hear me talk about as I talk about Smart Survey Assist is not only the ability to capture information from the people you're surveying, but the fact that our system is able to gather quality data and then help you perform analytics on that data to truly understand your populations. So with that, I'll go to slide 2. So what is Smart Survey Assist? Basically, we help you get data from your participants using survey tools. It's an intelligent assistant that simplifies the design of your surveys. It streamlines distribution of those surveys out to your participants. It ensures every response drives insights for your villages. We have effortless survey creation, so you'll see how quick it is: single click, drag and drop, copy question, copy survey. Branding templates. How nice is it that you can create one template? It's got all the colors and logo that's important and everything standardized in one template. You can apply that template across all your surveys, saving time, increasing your quality. Multi-channel survey distribution. You can send it out as a URL. You can send it out as a QR code. Survey scoring, really important for the upstream social interaction risk scale. Each of those 13 questions, and I'll demo this, you can score them. So at the end of a participant's answer set, you can say this person scored very low, so their risk is higher of being more socially isolated, helping you target which participants need the most intervention. We also offer user management versus participant management. User management are the folks you put into our system to manage the survey process, develop your surveys, edit your surveys, release your surveys. Participants are the people who take the survey. So we capture the data. If they're known participants, we'll capture who did it. If it's an anonymous survey, we numerically code those surveys to protect the anonymity of anybody taking a survey. And our user and participant management services help manage those populations of data securely. Taking us to secure data handling. We not only manage the survey data securely, all the analytics on the back end is in a highly secure environment. You can import data such as participant lists out of your Village customer relationship management system. You can export your survey results in the form of data or graphs. So importing and exporting is seamless in our SSA system. And the data is real time. So we plumb the charts and graphs right to the database. So as another participant finishes the survey, when you render up the view of the overall survey responses, you'll see that additional survey in those results. We're hosted in the cloud in a secure Amazon Web Services environment. Two-factor authentication is available if it's a known user, not needed if it's anonymous. Encryption for data at rest and encryption in flight ensure the data is encrypted at all portions of the journey. We based our solution on an open source system or framework called Lime Survey. So we've taken the open source system and we've layered all of our value-added tools and analytics on top of that, which makes it basically, we were able to gain all of the survey value without having to build every little thing ourselves. And it's been in an open source tool for over 13 years. So I wanted to talk about customer experiences. We have two different customer scenarios I wanted to share just to give you some idea of the way we've flexed the abilities in our system. One is to gain actionable insights. We have one customer who had 300 users and they surveyed and received back a little over 70 responses. Those responses were that survey was designed to understand of two sets of reports that they were offering as a product, which set of reports needs the most improvement because they were trying to prioritize their development roadmap. Well, in that process, all of the results came back and there was a clear focus on one set of reports. And the free text, they were able to glean exactly what to fix. So they could easily prioritize their roadmap with informed, actionable data that they received directly from their end users. So I liken that to your villages because when you send out the surveys from our system, the results will come back in a way that not only with the structured data, but you'll be able to interpret the free text or unstructured data in such a way that will be able to help you find the insights you need to advance your program with the proper priorities to best meet the needs of your current population. Research, we're actually working with a nonprofit to create a 1,500 question survey on children with chronic conditions. It's a bit of a labor of love, but they have really advanced branching logic and different types of questions they're using. And this is going to be a very long-term study. They're expecting it to last over 10 years. So just to show you a quick survey, quick feedback, quick updates to the roadmap, a longitudinal study over a long period of time, our system can do both. The next thing is survey workflow. I really wanted to take you through the journey. You create this, and you all probably have your survey experiences already, but I wanted to tie in the concept of the persona or the people involved. You create the survey, deploy the survey, collect the data, perform the analytics, and of course, derive the insights, and then determine if you have to tweak or adjust or prioritize things differently. but the personas change through this cycle. At the top where you create the survey, you'll have your VVC survey administrators who will create the survey, activate the survey, deploy it out to your village participants. Then the participants are the persona who will take the survey, and from that we gather their data. That data on the survey URL or QR code will come right back into our system real time, at which time you can look at the out of the box quick analytics or create more detailed analytics, whether you use a data analyst or a business owner with the out of the box solutions. You derive your insights and then decide to survey again, survey different things. So that's the basic survey workflow we'll be talking about in the demo. I wanted to just give you a quick view of all the question types that are out of the box. We offer these numerous different kinds of questions that support array formats, dates where the edit checking for the date is baked into the question type you select, ranking. What's really cool is you can create a list and have people drag and drop and adjust the order of the priority they think things should happen in. Lists of drop down and radio buttons, and very numerous different kinds of free text. So with that, I want to ask, are there any questions before I move into the demo? No? Okay. Let's do this. So what you see here is our Explore Digits Smart Survey Assist landing page, where when you go and touch on surveys, oops, I've timed out, log back in. So it does have a timeout. That's a security thing. And so I've created a couple surveys in here to start us off. I've actually loaded the upstream social isolation risk indicator or screener, and there it comes with some sample questions. Of note in particular is the status. This is an inactive survey, which means nobody can take it other than the administrator getting access to it. It's not activated for consumption. Where this is actually activated, and you can use the URL to take this survey. So I want to walk through backwards. I like to go backwards, and I want to start with the isolation survey tool to show you how we get to the point of delivering a survey. So first this is a copy of the upstream social isolation risk indicator. There's 13 questions in here, and all of the answer sets are radio buttons. It's one, you can pick 1, 2, or 3. You can't pick multiples. And each of these adds up to a score. So you either get a 0 or a 1 for 13 questions. So your lowest score is a 0, your highest score is 13. And I wanted to show you how we add things up here. The scoring rubric for these 13 questions is provided by this particular question set. So I've actually added this rubric into our question set so you can see the way the scoring would work. So let me take you into the upstream social indicator structure and just show you, here are the 13 questions. And the 14th question is hidden because that adds up our total to make the total available only on the end of the survey. So let me run this survey to show you what the survey would look like to an end user. And again, focusing on the branding, Wave I developed this just for Wave to get an example up on the screen for us today. Wave gave us their logo and their color scheme. We added this as a template. So if I created the RACI survey, I could just apply the same template with a click. It's that easy and that quick. So you can define lead-in text to help position the person taking the survey to understand it better. You can give instructions like each question's required, noted by the asterisk. You can tell the person how long it may take them to take the survey. So just to quickly pop through here, I want to just take this survey. I'm going to just say never, 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 so we can look down the never column and make sure our totals match the survey assessment tool. So you can see how easy this is. You just click, click, click. And then we highlight the submit button with the third color of our branding. And when I submit, your survey responses have been recorded. your assessment of this total, we have an 8. So just to really quickly, let's do a validation check. If we look at the nevers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that was all 13 questions answered as never. So we know that our risk screener is adding correctly. The idea then, and this particular screener on the documentation I've been able to find, it hasn't told you at what point is your participant at risk. So it may say anything lower than 5 is a higher risk person who's more at risk of being isolated. When you get that delineation, you can say if it's 8, this is not a person at very high risk because it's above 5, but if it's 5 or below, you might put you're at a higher risk of isolation. Please reach out to the villages for additional support. Here's a phone number. You can add that type of information here at the end of the survey the participant is taking once you know the way you want to break down your results. Then you can print your answers, and I'm the survey participant, so I can print my answers. And you can add the question or the codes. I've left the codes in here, so you can see from an analytics perspective, everything's codified. So I don't have to look at the word. So if you decide to change never to almost never, we keep the code, and the text is mapping to that code. And then you can also produce a PDF report. And you see at the end of the 13 questions, your result is 8 here of all of your totals. Are there any questions about taking the survey, producing the summary for the participant, and then if you produce the PDF report, that comes up on my PDF screen. And I'll make this a little bigger because it always defaults being much too small. And get rid of this. And then if you look down here, you can see the questions exactly as they appeared on the screen, and you can just scroll through them and see that. But what I'd like to do, so any questions so far? Okay. What I'd like to do then is take you over and show you how let's just look at what a question looks like in Lime Survey and how quickly it is to create it. So each question has the code, which I pointed out to you. The text of the question shows here. It also has help. So if you needed some additional supportive information about a question, you enter that here, and it would be beneath the question as supportive documentation. And then here's where you're assigning those assessment values. So for this particular question, I feel isolated. If you never feel isolated, it makes sense that you would rate that a 0. But if you sometimes or often feel isolated, it makes sense that we would want to add 1. So you can also, so this is where we're adding the scoring that the whole system understands and produces the results at the end. You can very easily see single click. You can make questions mandatory or not mandatory. You can add additional logic if you need to. You can define display, how the things will display. So there's just a tremendous amount of profile-driven configuration capabilities. I couldn't even touch the surface today, but I wanted to show you where and how that would work. So we've defined all of the questions, and then to do our total, we use an equation question. And it's mandatory, but in the display, we hide it. Always hide this question. And the logic is this total automatically calculates itself in the squiggle brackets, represent it as a baked-in variable that's available in our system. So you don't have to do anything. It just adds it up for you, which is really easy. So let me go over to configurations for a minute. Wanted to show you that when you look at your survey, now I've activated the survey. If you remember at the very beginning, I showed you active and inactive. That means that if I take this URL and I put it in our chat, you could all take this survey right now. You could do it later, but I wanted to show you opening this sharing portal. This is how quick and easy it is to make the QR code. So that's what you would do to get your QR code, copy it out into your documentation or your flyer where you want people to see how to activate the survey. Then we go into additional survey level profiles. So I have an all-in-one because there's only 13 questions. It's not a very long survey. There's no need to group things. But let's say you had 3 groups of questions about housing, about food, and about activities. You could create 3 different groups of questions and drive the pagination by group. So group 1 is on stream, and then you go next, and group 2 would be on a different page, and you press next, and group 3 is on the last page, and that's when you submit. So we support the all-in-one or the group processing. Also, text elements, you can then change your formatting for your dates, like just very quickly, single click drop down. And also, if you wanted to add a special welcome message, if you wanted a special end message, you can personalize this very easily by just putting your text here and using your word-like syntax to make it pretty. Wanted to show you presentation. Now this where it gets a lot more detailed, so I don't want to spend a lot of time, but I want to highlight the depth and breadth of the configuration capabilities. You can have a separate welcome screen with a lot of detail about your survey, or you can turn it off and go right into the questions. You could have a progress bar. Let's say you have a 50-question survey. It's nice to know if you're on question 25 that you're already halfway through. If you can automate having no answer be an option, or you can turn it off and it only shows the options you put in your answer set. I almost find I always put off because I don't want these random extra no answers showing up because I know specifically what I want to ask. And a good example is our upstream social interaction risk scale, because that was very specific, 3 questions. Adding a no answer wasn't applicable there or would mess up our scoring. And then allowing participants to print answers. You can even control that, and showing graphs when you get to the stats page, which we'll get to in a minute. Participant settings is different than presentation. So you can allow it to be public registration. You can decide if you're printing emails, do you want that pretty formatting allowed or turning that off? You can send confirmation emails. So again, depth and breadth of this system. This is where you enable that assessment mode by survey. So if you don't want assessment mode because you really just want to capture some answers and you don't need to score it, you simply turn this off very simply, and then that assessment column disappears from your survey and you won't see the assessment scoring. So are there any questions about the survey level profiles that you can set to adjust your surveys? Okay, taking us down, now that we've created our survey, executed our survey, I'd love to show you statistics. So there's a simple mode. So without doing anything, like I mentioned, the out-of-the-box statistics, let's just get a temperature gauge on what our folks are saying. I feel isolated. Now, I did have some folks in corporate take this survey for me so I could get some data loaded in here. So it is mock data, just be clear. I feel isolated, and we have a lot of young people, so I bet they said no because they probably don't feel very isolated. But you can see there's 5 people who answered never, there's 4 people who answered sometimes, and there's 2 people who answered often. And each of these questions, you can just at a glance see the way that the data distributes across all these questions. But let's go to expert mode so we can see some numbers with it. So if we go down to expert mode, I only want to look at completed questions. I'd really like to get a PDF at the end. I want to see graphs in addition to data, and I want both question codes and text showing. And I want to show you that you can choose just deep diving on one question, or you can choose all of the questions and it'll do it all for you. So let me do all, and let's view statistics. And it's thinking, and then when it's done, it's going to produce the PDF. And again, I'll make this bigger because it's too small when it first comes up. Move this. So as we go down our social risk screener, 11 people took the survey and completed the survey. So you can see we first offer a percentage breakdown. 45% said never, 36 sometimes. This is all out of the box. We haven't had to create any reporting yet. And you can also get the bar chart. And what's really nice is you can cut and paste these right out of here and put them in reports and things like that. And then at the very end, you get to the bottom, you see the last one, the number 13 here, 15 out of 15 pages of charts. Are there any questions about the PDF and the reporting and the simple mode view versus the expert mode? And here you can export particular images as well. Okay, so that brings me to the high level configuration. I kind of work backwards because I think everybody knows what a survey is, but understanding user management and participant management can be a bit more difficult for people who've never had administrative privileges. So themes, this is where you go in and create the wave theme. Just to do a real quick peekaboo on that, if I look at the way, we call them boot swatches. It's just the industry term for the way you set your theme up. But you can see here's the theme for the wave boot swatch. And if I then in label sets, and then this is where if you wanted to create a standard label for your villages that was very specific to your villagers, you could create a question answer label set and make it a static standard offering and just add that particular label set to questions for your own surveys, saving time and adding consistency across your different question sets. User management is where you define your administrative privileges for the people who oversee the entire system or just manage particular surveys. And you can control their access through a permissions management process and we would help work with you to define these permissions. But this is the levels of security we offer right coming out of the box. Also, central participant management. We allow you to add your participants many different ways. You can import participant lists. You can add a participant. So if I add Chris, because a new participant just joined the villages, and let's just put my, actually, I'll put my Explore Digits here. So there, and I'm English, of course. There we go. And then let's say I want to be I'm not going to be an administrator. Oh, I see it. Yeah. So add. So the administrator is going to own me. So now I'm a participant and I can assign Christina to a survey to take the survey. So this participant management is where the participants will be managed if you want a closed survey where you're pulling in your villagers participant list and you want to send an email out to them specific to this list of people to take that SIRS 13 question survey, let's say. But also showing you here emails. We have a baked in email template set. And these are part of the system, and you use the profile settings I mentioned to you to decide when and where these emails are triggered. They can be triggered by automated through the process, that flow we talked about, or you can manually send them to particular participants. What I love about this is these little squiggles represent variables that get substituted. So if you want to invite and you send out the invite through the login process, their first name when you invite them is automatically put here for them. So it's personalized, your survey name and survey description. And if you remember, we're in the SIRS survey. So that survey name is what gets put in here along with whatever you placed in that survey description. And you define your admin name and admin email to put at the bottom of this. So let's say you have Village 1 and you're going to send out one survey just to Village 1. You could personalize this for the admin of Village 1. But let's say you want to do this SIRS and you want to do it up a level for VVC to all villages. You could make the admin for that one the VVC admin. So you can control and manage those levels as you define it. And we help to with our training, and we can help you stand those things up. We have baked in remind. Now, these are out of the box formats. You're welcome to change this. You're welcome to add your own content. You're welcome to add images in here. You can add links in here. There's a confirmation, a registration, and basically like a reminder or a basic admin notification whenever you wanted to send something more generic. Are there any questions about our email capability? So just going back to the beginning, I want to just show you that let's say we want to change our survey. I can't go in here and make a change to a question because it might impact our results. So at any point in time, you can stop the survey, but it's going to disconnect your data, which, I'll do here just to show you when you deactivate it and you close it. Now you can go into structure and you can change any aspect of this. Let's just say I want to make this a multi-select. Here, let me go back to the first question so it shows up at the top. Let's just say for our own purposes, just to show you how quickly and easily this is, I can make this a multiple choice question, and I can say option 1, and I very quickly add a new one, option 2. And let's say you had a list of villages and it's 14 long and you want to make sure they're all spelled right. Quick Add allows you to add the list, right? Copy and paste a list in here, and then it would add that list for you, and you wouldn't have to manually type them all in. But if I save and close, you can now preview the survey before you activate it, and you can see now this is a multiple choice instead of the radio button. It was that quick to change the survey question type. So just to show you how fast it is to edit and modify. Just now, this was a fairly straightforward survey, which is important because you're sending this to elderly. But I want to point out condition. If you did have branching logic, this has a very sophisticated branching logic capable where you would define conditions to, if I don't feel so isolated, I might skip 3 of the questions. So just to point out this very sophisticated capability that isn't appropriate for this survey, but we have it as well. So that sort of kind of summarizes, that ends the demo I have planned, other than to show you global settings and global survey settings are the default, and you can override those at the individual survey level. So we've talked about creating a survey, activating a survey, and distributing a survey, and then analyzing the results. Yes, Lila.
Yes, 2 questions, please.
Mhm.
One, when you were talking about, say that you would, in the survey, go back in and make adjustments. So let's say you've run that survey and you found out that there's something on that survey that you want to change. This may be too involved for now, so please tell me if this is the case. But then you want to go ahead and send that adjusted survey out to another batch of individuals. I'm assuming somewhere within the support that you can offer, there's a way to still look at those surveys across the common questions, each of those campaigns or each of those across the common questions, to be able to pull value out of that, even though you may have adjusted some of the questions in the second send. Can you tell me if something like that, because I think that's one of the things that we're all going to be facing, is learning from survey participants about how we need to adjust our surveys.
Understood. So if we go back over here, I like to take it to the text element level where that's the name of your survey. When you activate it, that says any data coming in, I want to capture it and keep a record of it by participant, whether you know the name of the participant or not, whether it's closed or open. But if you have to change the survey, it could be the new survey doesn't map well to the old data. So you have to treat them like two different surveys. So you might put version 1, version V1, V2, so you can edit, what do you call it? Version control the questions and answers, almost like a code book, so that you can version control that set of questions. And you can also use that for A/B testing. So, you might have one set of questions and you try it and you're seeing some issues with the responses. You then send a second one out and see if that resolves those issues. You do need a different survey title so the system here in this list can differentiate it. And then what we do on the back end is we pull that data into QuickSight, which is the Tableau-like analytics tool where you have drag and drop ability to create charts and graphs. And then you would be able to blend your data at that QuickSight level, your analytics level, where you could then look at the results across surveys with common questions. You'd map those data together in a view.
And so what that leads me to the second question when I'm thinking about for VVC would be, you're going to have multiple villages putting out this survey. Then if you could just briefly talk about, working across it, I guess aggregating the data or how to do that. Not that we need to know the specifics of that, but to talk about the capability. It's not just looking at one village's survey in isolation. And Carol?
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to interrupt at this point. I think we're getting down into a
Too much
level
in the
of
weeds?
detail.
Okay.
Right now, we did want to provide good detail on this system because we are going to require the evaluator to use this system, and we feel it's important for them to understand the capabilities. But I believe they can. Anyone can contact Chris. Her information will be in the briefing. That needs more information or wants some documentation about the system. So I think we would really like to move along now and start dealing with the questions because we received quite a few questions and we want to make sure that we cover everybody's concerns. So we're going to start with the questions that, and thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
that.
I appreciate the
And
time.
we brought Chris in. This has been kind of a very last minute development, so we're just sort of putting things together here as we go. So let's start on the questions. Kim, if you could bring up the first set of questions. So the answer to question number 1, I'm just going to do answers. Well, let me ask, is it sufficient if I just do answers? Can everybody read the questions? We do not have any villages that are in the process of formation at this point. The rule of thumb, and question number 2, time to start up a village. The rule of thumb that gets bandied about in the village community is it takes at least 2 years to get a village started. And, it's not uncommon for it to take longer than that. Are there common touch point? Question number 3. We will be laying out the program, and one of the reasons that we are anxious to get the evaluator on board as soon as possible is that we need to work with the evaluator in laying out the process of how we're interacting with the villages. So we will work jointly with the evaluator to work with this. The incubator villages will be working as a cohort for the training program with Village Movement California, and so we'll probably maintain that way of operating in our part of the project as well. We do believe that we will be collecting data at the member level. I'm not clear. Now, I'm not an evaluator, so this is just a layperson speaking. It's not clear to me how one would get a sense of isolation risk if you're not surveying the individuals as opposed to the organization. Again, we're not the experts. We're looking to you people that do this for a living to, give us the, the professional opinion of what's the best way to do that. Let's see. Well, is measuring social isolation part of this initiative? Absolutely, because the whole funding package is based on dealing with social isolation. And in terms of how the time is split between the new villages and setting up new villages and social isolation, again, we are looking to you as the evaluators as you look at, because these are obviously very different kinds of evaluations. What your thinking is in terms of how you would need to allocate your resources to do that. And then I think we have another set of questions. Yeah, question number 1 is great. I don't have an answer for that. What villages look like when they're functioning perfectly? Well, nobody functions perfectly. I think my village in Arlington is a very high functioning and performing village. So I would say for a standalone village model, I would say Arlington Neighborhood Village is a great example. I'm sure Mary Jane's village of Lowlink is another great example. Fairfax Village in the city is a very new village, so they're still getting their legs under themselves. So at any rate, there's villages reflect their communities and the needs in their communities. So you can't say that there's any one example of what is a perfectly functioning village. It's how well does the village serve the community where it's organized. What a successful evaluation would look like is that, villages are the gold standard for addressing social isolation. That's what we let that, if we could say what we want to come out of that's what I would like to see. But we are trying to evaluate, how well do villages contribute, and what is it about villages that contribute to addressing social isolation. So, the best that we can do to illuminate those particular questions. I am not sure what the point is of the third question. I think we've laid out the program. We have these 3 big tasks. There's getting the evaluation element set up, the starting villages set up, and the grants program set up. So these are the 3 big, the 2 big elements of the program, and then the third element of evaluating those other 2. There will not be any other evaluation RFPs. This evaluation is intended to cover the entire project, all aspects. Scope for appropriate proposal for the budget. Again, I think this question about the proposal, of course, is a fixed price contract. So the way that you choose to allocate the budget, and we're not asking for a detailed budget, but we would want to get a sense of how you would be allocating the budget based on the activity level for these 2 big pieces of the program. What would be done relative to evaluating the grants for villages in relation to social isolation, and then what would be done to evaluating the process of establishing new villages. So again, that's really up to you how you see that you would need to allocate resources to do those 2 quite different evaluations. We have not talked about measuring loneliness. We're focusing on social isolation, and I think we'll just stick with that. But if someone feels that there's some benefit to also asking about loneliness, again, we're open to discussion. We do not know what social isolation interventions will be evaluated. That will come in. The villages will be submitting their applications in which they'll be describing the initiatives that they are proposing. So it could, we have no idea. It could be a lot of very different things. And the data that we currently collect, as Mary Jane indicated, the Virginia Villages Collective has been surveying the villages well, just for the last 2 years. And we've just been collecting very basic data about number of members, number of volunteers, the kind of data that she showed in the slide where she talked about what villages do. So there is no standard data collection. And in fact, not all of our villages have submitted data when we have collected data. So there's no standard data reporting process that villages follow. Next questions, please. Types. Well, again, I think Mary Jane addressed this. An organization starting a village could be almost any kind of a nonprofit. It can be just a group of citizens from the community. We are particularly focusing on finding sponsors because, again, this is another thing we're testing out in this program. There is some evidence that being started by a sponsor organization reduces the time and cost for villages, and we just want to collect some more data on, is that really true? And as Mary Jane indicated, we are, through a separate project, we are completing a report and examining 10 or 12 sponsored villages around the country to just look at the process and better understand what happens in this kind of a setting. Our expectation right now for the time period for the existing villages, we are estimating that those grants will start in January 2026 and run to the end of June. So there'll be 6 months of implementation of the grant initiatives. I'm not aware of any data that we have, consistent data. We have a lot of anecdotes about our members and volunteers and social isolation and how villages have been very helpful to make them feel engaged in their community. But in terms of quantitative data, I'm not aware of having any of that, specifically relative to villages. Okay. Pilot activities for recruiting startup villages started really about a year ago, frankly. And as I said, we made the formal announcement because one of the purposes of Virginia Villages Collective is to help get new villages started. And while we were advocating for getting state funding, we were going to do that whether we got funding or not. It was just a matter of if we received state funding, we would be able to do much more quickly than we could do continuing as a small all-volunteer organization. So we have been recruiting for a long time. As I indicated, we have a list of several organizations and individuals that we will be following up with in the very near future to sort of take the pulse again and start really pulling those planning groups together in earnest. Expected timeline for starting new villages. Well, we'll see. We'll see. This is a program that hasn't been done anywhere before, and we'll just see how well it works. I will say we do not really expect any villages to actually be operational by June of next year. That's not our expectation, but it could happen. So that's part of what we're looking at. The way that we are going about doing this program, using the recruiting sponsors, actively going out and finding people to start villages as opposing to people generating the idea on their own, using a standard training program. None of this has been done before. So we're just trying to figure out, it's our expectation that this will significantly expedite the process and really help us move into scaling villages, but we don't know. That's why we're a pilot. I think I addressed the issue of the timeline in my comments. The first year progress briefing for DARS will be created simultaneously, more or less, with the report. I mean, that the timing of all that needs to be worked out, but obviously we need to have the results of the project to do the presentation to DARS. And we will be continuing our quarterly meeting. DARS is the State Agency on Aging. We'll be continuing to meet with them quarterly as we have been in the past, and potentially even more often, depending on what's happening in the program. And I believe those are all the questions that we received in advance. Is that right, Kim? So now I would like to open the floor. I would hope that I haven't noticed any questions in the chat, but I think you can feel free. Kim at least can see all of you. I can't. So if you just want to raise your hand or however you want to indicate your question, I think we will go with that.
I see one from Sandra.
Yeah, I might have missed it, but one of our questions was, did the grantees include anticipated outcome measures in their applications?
We have not put out the RFP for the grants yet. And again, that's part of wanting to get the evaluator on board so that we have it, a pretty solid draft, but then there are some questions like this that we really want to be able to discuss with the evaluator before we put that RFP out.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Okay, great.
Mhm.
And Chris, again, really appreciate you taking the time at the last minute to join us and give us a good overview of the data platform.
Thank you, Carol. It was a pleasure to be here, and I thank you for your time.
And let me just ask, is it okay if people email you if they have specific questions or they're looking for documentation or any more information about the system?
Yes, exactly. And my email's at the bottom here. Thank you.
Okay. And I guess I would make just one further comment is that this will not be a cost to the evaluator. So this system is available to you at no cost. So I guess that's an important thing for you to know as you're putting your proposals together. Okay. Well, thank you all very much for your time. We really appreciate your interest in this program. We're pretty excited about it. It's taken us a long time to get here. We can still hardly believe that we're here, but we're going to try to really learn a lot, and are hoping that someone among you will help us gather all the data and all the insights of. There's just going to be so much to learn in what we're doing here. So we appreciate your interest and look forward to working with you.